Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. It's Allan Laboucan with the Rocks and Stocks News Show. I've got a special report that I'm putting out today on one of my new sponsors that joined my sponsorship program on January 24th, a company called Dynasty Gold. They had news out a couple days ago that I'm going to bring up right now. And what that news was is that they had to restate their assay results. Now, most often when companies have to restate their results, they come out a lot worse than they started. In this case, they had a core sample in intervals of 189 to 198 meters in drill hole DP22-02 were reported earlier as 9 meters of 15 grams, including 3 meters of 43.47 grams. Whereas the corrected values are 9 meters of 22.58, so that's a 7 gram per ton increase, and 3 meters of 65.2 grams per ton gold, so that's a 22 gram increase, so quite substantial increases on that hole. The interval of 118 to 121.5 meters in drill hole DP22-03 was reported at 101 grams per ton gold, whereas the corrected value is 151.65 grams per ton gold. So 50 grams increase there. They increased it by Bonanza grade when it was already Bonanza grade. So quite an exceptional increase. And the other thing I wanted to bring up here is their corporate presentation that you can find on their website. So first here, you can see the town of Dryden, a road leading up to the town of Dryden, and right beside that road is the Thundercloud project of Dynasty Gold. Here's the Greenstone Belt. These are the old rocks that are known to host orogenic gold systems. And it looks like they're now tagging into high grade to Bonanza grades in an orogenic gold system. So that's a seminal moment for the exploration of a orogenic gold system. Down here, these orogenic gold systems are fault controlled. So you get these big cracks in the earth, crustal cracks that go down very deep, 3, 4, 5,000 meters. And so the faulting is important. And I would also point out that right here, there's a displacement of that fault, quite a significant displacement of that fault. And it's right where there's a package of 4 or 5 different rock packages that converge right at that point. Okay, so I'm going to now bring up these rocks and trenches. As you can see, there's good distribution of the gold. Now I'm going to switch down to here. So you can see an east-west trending geophysical anomaly. I'm going to switch over to, this is one view, and this is in the looking inside of an east-west. Here's that geophysical anomaly. And as you can see, there's high-grade pods that are hanging together quite nicely, and it remains open. Now that east-west trend is now oriented to the north and south, and here you can see these zones hanging together, and it's still wide open as you go to depth. Here you can see some important drill hole intersections. This is drill hole DP22-02 that had been corrected to 3 meters at 65.2 grams per ton gold. Some nice looking rock there. Here's another one. This is the DP22-03 that had a 3 meter intersection of 151 grams per ton of gold. So I'm just going to switch off here for a second, and I'll go back, and I want to show you a cross section that I think is very important for this project. When you're looking at high-grade intersections, you want to see the continuity and the distribution of that gold is very important when you're looking at a project like this. And as you can see here, this is a historical hole that had a high-grade intersection inside of it right there. Then you fall down to this one, and this is where they hit the thick intersection of 22.5, or sorry, you've got the thick intersection here. This is that 3-meter hole that was 101 grams and has been corrected to 151 grams. Inside of that is the 1.5 meters of 246 grams. That is all in hole 3. So that's a substantial increase in the Bonanza grade 3-meter intersection. And it had that excellent 1.5 meter intersection at 246 grams. So you're looking at a metal factor that is around 350 in gram meters. And that 3-meter intersection is about 450 in gram meters. But what I wanted to point out here is, here's some high grade, here it continues. They got more high grade down here, more high grade in, or good grades to high grade in here. And then you keep following this trend, and you run into this hole 4, which was 1.5 meters at 25 grams. So you're getting a nice trend developing of these high-grade zones hanging together. Then over here, you've got an interesting situation, because this was the 3-meter intersection that was 43.547 grams and was corrected to 65 grams. So you can see a trend developing here of continuity of that extreme high grade, and it's over a pretty significant distance. And the next step will be to continue to follow that deeper. But what is also interesting is this zone here seems to be either a parallel zone that's coming in here somehow, or maybe there's some folding that could have taken place, but that would be pretty darn significant. So my guess is that this is a parallel zone. Do they meet up at depth? That's a very good question to ask, because this one seems to be trending this direction, and this one, we don't know where it's going, but if you kind of follow this, maybe it's going in this direction. So as they get 300-400 meters down, there's a possibility that these two connect at depth. And this cross-section is what has me very excited about this project for a couple of reasons. One is that they're in an orogenic gold system, and in the first couple hundred meters, they're already hitting Bonanza grades, high grade to Bonanza grades. And secondly, is that you're already starting to line up some continuity here of that high grade. And then you've got another intersection down here that's starting to hang together quite nicely. And that's 65 gram per ton gold over 3 meters. So you've got Bonanza grade there in what looks like could be a second parallel zone. So these 3 holes are the most important holes that they've drilled in this project to date. And I think they've got an exciting story to follow. These zones in these orogenic gold systems, like at the Swan Zone at the Fosterville mine in Australia, they don't tend to be very thick. but they are extremely high grade. And because the gold is so coarse, the recovery is very, very cheap for that gold. And so these projects have extreme margins. In the case of Kirkland Lake, when they started mining the Swan Zone, they were mining at a huge, very low cost, very high grade for very high margins. And that's the nature of these orogenic gold systems. They're cash machines. And it was such a significant cash machine that Kirkland Lake found it, and they were a fairly big company, and it launched their stock up to be one of the best performing gold stocks in the sector, and ultimately led to them getting bought out. So if it was able to make a big company, a multi-billion-dollar buyout, what can it do for a company with an $11.5 million valuation? There's a lot of meat left on the bone for this one, a lot of blue sky ahead of it. And I'm really excited about what they've found in these 3 holes that they reported a few weeks ago. Okay, so now I'm going to go off the stop share, and I'm going to go back to this one. So I'll just pull this up, and what I'll do is I'm going to pull up their stock chart, because there's some interesting things happening here. So this is the blast off when they announced the big results. And before that, they were Apache trader, and on low volume, and trade by appointment kind of thing. And then they announced that those big holes, the stock blasted off. When that happens, when a stock goes parabolic like that, you'll often see a lot of hot money come in. And as often is the case, hot money can leave very rapidly if it doesn't keep going parabolic. But I would point out that they went through a golden cross here around January the 19th. And look at the trajectory of this 50-day moving average. It's a very impressive move. Now, the stock, after the hot money left the building, it bottomed out at about, let's say 17 cents here. And since then, it's been moving up again. And is now trading quite significantly above the 50-day moving average and the 200-day moving average. And both the 200-day moving average and the 50-day moving average are in very bullish trends. I think they've got something very special on their hands here at the Thundercloud project. As I said a few times earlier, when you're in an orogenic gold system and you start hitting these bonanza grades so close to surface, high grade to bonanza grades, it's kind of a seminal moment for the project. And I think that as they do more drilling, you're going to see that that things hang together. Now, another thing that you'll probably see is these orogenic gold systems are known to have complex faulting. And getting back to what I was talking about earlier, how you've got a fault coming in like this, and then it was displaced quite significantly in the vertical and along strike. And that is suggestive to me that there's probably some complex secondary faulting below that point. And that is what are really important in these orogenic gold systems, because that's what creates the broken up rock that enables the fluids that are carrying the high grade to bonanza grades to make their way up towards the surface. And so I think as you get deeper, like with the Swan Zone at Fosterville, you had quite complex faulting, some going in this direction, some going in this direction, and where you can connect two of those, is often a perfect place to be the rock is well prepared for lots of fluids to make their way up into dilation zones inside of these systems. And with the continuity that I talked about in the one hole, and then a second zone looking like it could be going like this, I think if they follow that a few hundred meters down, they're going to see that that they probably come together at depth. And that's a tremendously exciting situation for an orogenic gold system. So, you know, you're looking at a company here with only $11.5 million valuation, yet they've come to a seminal moment for the exploration of an orogenic gold system when you start finding these high grades to Bonanza grade jewelry box hits, which they've done now. And I'm looking forward to them continuing to test the depth extent of their resource and also get after the depth extent of these few holes that they announced earlier this year. As always, my shows are for information purposes only. It's important for you to do your homework, speak with your financial advisors, and I'm a big proponent of that do your homework thing. It helps you think logically about a project. You can do your homework on orogenic gold systems. You can even do a Google search for the Swan Zone, and you'll see this complex faulting and how you can get zones coming together. Sometimes they'll come in at different angles, and those are all fault controlled. And I think as they get deeper, they're going to see this secondary faulting. They've got the big crack in the earth where you see that displacement of the fault. And then I think as you get deeper, you'll see secondary faulting, which is also very important to these orogenic gold systems. So yeah, check out orogenic gold systems on Google Earth, or I mean on Google. Check out the Swan Zone models, so you can see, you'll be impressed with how small those zones are, yet they're just money-making machines of mines. On that note, have a great day, and we will talk to you soon.